What's up? Nutrition this week. Let's get right into it. Resilience weekly webinar coming at you. Beautiful. The number one most important nutrition habit, bar none, of all time. If you only did one thing, it would be this. You know what it is? It's tracking. Now, I'm going to qualify that right off the bat and say that you don't need to track forever. It's the most important habit because if you don't start with tracking, then you have no hope. It's like setting a course for Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you don't even know where you're leaving from. How the fuck are you going to get there? You could be in Abu Dhabi or you could be in Buenos Aires. And both of those directions would be completely different for you to get to Albuquerque. So your nutrition's no different. Your fat loss results, the body composition results, your muscle gain needs to start from reality. Like, are you actually right now? And the only way to know that is to track. So now, is tracking also a fantastic long-term strategy? Yes. It's not the only one that will get you results, but we'll talk about that as we get there. Any plan that we give you without an initial baseline set of numbers, like a food journal, is doomed for the reasons I just said. And the problem is that, and I've probably done this. You've probably done exactly that. You go on a diet because you have a goal. You want to lose some weight. Say you want to drop 10 pounds. You go on a diet and it maybe works kind of, but probably doesn't work that well. It's definitely not fun. And all you end up, the only result that you really get is frustration. My friend, it does not have to be like that. Getting the ideal body that you want, having abs that are visible, dropping a few belt sizes, getting down to, sub 15% body fat, whatever, being able to make it up 3 flights of stairs without huffing and puffing, or being able to, go for an extended hike, bike ride, play ball with your kids and keep up. Like, all of that is well within reach, and it does not require you to completely upend your lifestyle and do tedious, monotonous things that you hate in order to achieve a result. It doesn't have to be like that. Tracking. Talked about this. So let's talk about why. Whether you're in Abu Dhabi or Buenos Aires makes a huge difference if you're trying to get to Albuquerque. If your goal is to lose, say it's 10 pounds, and that requires a calorie deficit. But the problem is that you don't know what a calorie deficit is for you until you know how many calories you're currently taking in. I hope that makes sense. So here's my example here, 1,400 to 2,000. If you're eating 1,400 calories without realizing it, then, and given a diet, like an out-of-the-box whatever diet, which puts you at 2,000 calories, maybe it's not actually a number. Maybe it's just some paleo plan that you're following because your friend did it and he got great results. And so you're going to try it too. Keto diet, whatever. Maybe it worked for him, but probably if his goal was weight loss and he lost some weight, it's because he was eating more before the diet than he was on the diet. But maybe you're not. Maybe your habits are different. Maybe you've been dieting a ton or fasting a ton, or you're just super busy and you don't really think about meals until after the fact. And then you grab, drive-through or a bag of chips from the vending machine and call it a day, have some extra caffeine, speaking of which, pretty good. So then the same diet that worked for him is not going to work for you. You're going to actually gain weight. And like I said, you'll end up getting frustrated. And another example, I guess is at a finer level, the calorie is not just a calorie. A diet, that is close to maintenance can be turned into a fat loss. You can achieve a fat loss result simply by altering food quality and timing. But you don't know any of those things, how to do any of those things until you have a baseline. 4 main things that you can't really plan around until you actually get your data is your actual calorie intake, your eating patterns, like I said, timing in particular, your actual macro breakdown, protein versus carbs versus fat, very, very important. And, all of this as it pertains to your metabolism. And while we're talking about metabolism, I can guess with a high degree of accuracy what your metabolism is once I get this baseline macro data, calorie data, and when I know what the trend has been in terms of have you been steadily gaining weight, steadily losing weight, just kind of plateauing? Are you, somebody who tends to be overweight, tends to be underweight, has a hard time gaining muscle, things like that? I can put the pieces together and understand where your metabolism is based on that, but it's still a guess. It's an educated and accurate guess, but it's still a guess. The only way to take the guesswork completely out of it is to do a resting metabolic rate test, which we can actually do. Lifetime recently got the gizmos that they need, and I'm in the process of getting certified on those gizmos. So if you're in the Boston area and you want to run a metabolic rate test, let me know. You don't even have to be a lifetime member. We can get you in on a guest pass and tell you with scientific certainty what your metabolism is, what your resting metabolic rate is. Pretty cool. So then the results become guaranteed because then we know exactly what we need to feed you in order to achieve fat loss, muscle gain, some of both, whatever your goal is. So baseline first, target second, adjustment third. Once we understand where you're coming from, we're point A, then we can speak to point B, and then we can chart the path in between them. And also, just to let you guys in on a little secret, fat loss and muscle gain aren't really different. The principles that govern each are the same. It's everything that I've been talking about so far. It's your calorie intake relative to your calorie needs. And what I do for clients in an assessment, in an initial meeting, is I always draw a spectrum. I draw a line. On one side is fat loss, and the other side is muscle gain. And I ask them to put themselves on that continuum. Are you right in the middle? You want some of both? Are you a little bit, it's summer, like you want to lean towards fat loss because you want to shred up for beach season? Or maybe you just are a hardcore hard gainer and you've always had trouble gaining muscle. And so really all you care about is putting some lean mass on your frame. Then based on that, we dial in the numbers for you. But really the process is the exact same. So how to actually track. So every single client that we take in does a 3-day nutrition journal. And ideally we do 2 weekdays and 1 weekend day just to get a general sense of, or an overall sense of how the eating is happening throughout the week, especially like if you have days where you're in the office or days where you travel, and we want to get one of each of those as well. Full picture. There's a couple of different ways you can slice it. Best option would be option 2. You just do it inside of our training app, because our coaching app, because then it's all in one spot, and our systems are set up for you to, like, we can view your data and coach you based on the data and make adjustments as necessary most easily. You can also use MyFitnessPal or any of the other myriad tracking apps that have come up in the last 10 years, 15 years. MyFitnessPal was the first in the game, so they're probably like the most recognizable one. Doesn't mean they're the best. It's the one that I have the most experience with outside of my own app. And then, of course, you can just literally write down what you ate with the quantities, because remember, quantities matter, and time. And then just feed that into ChatGPT and ask it to give you calories and macro breakdown, and just, create a table or whatever for you. And it works really well. Sometimes I have clients who come in who are very tech illiterate, and they just give me a notebook, or they're very lazy and they didn't even actually take the time to make a notebook, and they just tell me off the dome like what they ate. Then I'll use ChatGPT in that case, because it just happens so quickly. So 3-day sampling of your eating habits, and then from that you'll get your total daily calories on average. You'll get your macro split, very important, your protein intake, and again, like timing and frequency of meals, all extremely relevant and necessary to get to Albuquerque. Then it gets a little bit more nuanced. Tracking is absolutely, essentially, vitally important for this first stage, getting this baseline. But after that, we have different strategies that we can employ, because some people wither in fear and shame whenever they even so much as hear the words tracking. And they think that, or they've been told that they just need to suck it up, figure it out if they want results. And I abhor that message, because it's not true, and B, does not represent good coaching at all. You do not need, where there's a will, there's a way, and we can work with whatever your natural inclinations, personalities, schedule, needs may be. Some people really like tracking. Some people really dig into like the specificity and the numbers and the gamification of it, because it is cool to like nail your macros, get enough protein in, and still be like 200 calories, under your daily allotment, and be like, ooh, I'll go shopping in your cabinet for something sweet at the end of the day. That's just a cool feeling. you just feel really accomplished. It doesn't work for some people. So there's a bunch of different ways we can slice it. Before we even talk through those, though, you need to understand that getting from Buenos Aires to Albuquerque is not, you don't just fly straight and you don't just teleport. You have to get there step by step. You have to stop along the way. You have to adapt. Probably there's going to be some road closures going through Bolivia, the jungles. Maybe something's flooded out and you need to course correct, right? It's a process. And so many people go wrong and get really frustrated because they're just trying to teleport. It doesn't work like that. Your body wants to adapt, otherwise it's going to compensate. So if you go from what you're actually eating now to exactly what your point B is, chances are your body's not going to know what to do with that. Say you're having more calories, you're going to gain fat. If you're having way too few calories, you're going to feel super tired, and your workouts are going to be flaccid. Your muscles are going to be flat, and brain's going to be foggy. I've certainly had this experience going on diets that changed my calorie intake very radically, very quickly. And people almost just take it as a given. Oh, you're going on a diet. You're going to feel like shit for the first few days while your body, gets used to it. It doesn't have to be like, and you can still get results, by the way. Right. So here we go. That's what I started to say earlier. You don't have to track forever. Well, I guess, yeah, let's talk about other things you can do. And then we'll talk about why I still think developing the skill is really massively beneficial. So there's a couple of things you can do other than tracking. If all you care about is a discrete point B result. If you want to lose 10 pounds, okay, well, you could track your macros, definitely. We talked about the pros and cons of that and who might, respond well to it and who might not. You can also go the meal planning route. You can have a coach just generate a meal plan for you, and you don't have to think. You just eat that plan, and then you're good. Some people really like that. They don't want to think at all. They don't want to enter shit into an app, but they like routines that they have, and so they can stick to a plan if they're getting one. That's fine. Some people don't really like that at all, and they'd rather just kind of go based on feel, based on intuition, and that's cool too. Listening to your body, listening to your cues, starting to understand what those cues may mean. Just because you're hungry doesn't mean you need food. A lot of times you're just thirsty. Your stomach can't tell the difference. Energy levels for the day, sleep quality, performance in the gym, recovery. Like these are all cues too that you can use to understand the state of nutrition of your body. And then probably the simplest one would be just choosing to not eat. And I love it. We've talked about the benefits of fasting before. There are many. And it's also just super simple and really a foolproof way to achieve a deficit. Yeah. You just have to be careful that you're not in too much of a deficit for reasons I've already alluded to. And the cool thing about coaching is that we will pick and choose and from these different methods, create a path forward that makes the most sense and is the most relevant for you. That's what a coach is for. The best nutrition strategy is the one that you're actually going to do. Period. Full stop. Mic dropped. I'll see you guys later. Let's see. I do want to touch on the fact that tracking as a skill, very, very helpful because it allows you to look at a plate of food and know exactly what's in it. The more that you enter food into an app, look for a good entry, use your critical thinking mind and say, oh, okay, here you start to just know off the top of your head, an avocado has 240 calories in it. Half, or is that a full? It's probably half an avocado. It's 99% fat. That's why it's so calorie dense, because fat has twice as many calories per gram as carbs and protein do. And you just know that. And so you're like, oh, this salad has half of an avocado in it. This is not a low calorie salad. The salad has a whole avocado in it, plus olive oil, plus some feta cheese. There's a significant amount of fat in that thing, 30, 40 grams. Now, I'm not saying that the fat is bad. I'm just saying that it can derail your progress depending on what your targets actually are. But you can make better choices on the fly once you know what's in your food. And the only way to do that is to track consistently and to start to develop those understanding of, this is how much calories a burger has, and what the macros are. This is how much the macros and calories for an ice cream. Let's face it, yeah, it's just knowledge is power. And honestly, this is probably the biggest lever that I use to look exactly like I want to look without really doing any work. It's not that I haven't It's not that I just ended up here by default. It's that I did lots and lots of work up until this point, so that now the work just kind of like happens second nature. Like I said, I just look at a plate of food and I know it's in it, and I know pretty much what I need in order to achieve my goals. What I also do is whenever I'm like changing my nutrition strategy towards a specific goal, I will create because I'm a very routine person when it comes to nutrition. Well, a lot of things, but especially nutrition. I like to just eat the same things because it takes all the guesswork out of it. It takes all the thinking out of it. It frees up time in my day and in my mind, or like space in my mind. So I calculate the macros and the calories for whatever that template meal plan day is, and make sure it aligns with my goals. And then I don't have to track again because I'm eating the same thing every time, right? Which is essentially what I would do if a client wants a meal plan. I would do all the math for them and then just hand them the meal plan part. For me, it's I'm the client and I'm the coach, so I got to do both. This we already talked about. You get an actual baseline. You get the actual point A. You know what your point B is, and then we create the path between it in a way that's relevant to how you like to operate and something that's realistic. And again, resting metabolic rate test, hit me up. I'll make sure that you are the first to be notified. We'll get you in my calendar at the front of the line when these resting metabolic rate tests become available. Very simple. You literally just lay down in the chair with a breathing, mask on, and that's it. So, action time. You can't manage what you don't measure. So if you haven't done this already, then take 3 days, track your food, see where you're at, and then let me know if you want help understanding where to go from there, how to put a plan together that aligns with your goals, and something that you can actually do on a consistent basis long enough to get the result. That's what we're here for. Any other questions, comments, throw it in the chat, throw it in the comments, and we'll make sure you guys get what you need. Hope that helps. Stay breezy. We'll see you next week.